It's a concerning start, but it's still green. 400 is. 300. 320. There we go. That's alright. That's alright. It's just a kind of feature of these streams that I have to comment upon the KBS ratio. Hello, Peaches! Oh, people are jumping in real quick. Excellent. Now that people are here, it has been 20 streams, but today I went into into a little thing called audio filters, and it has a noise cancelling thing in there. Did you know there's a noise cancelling bit in the audio for OBS? I did not know this until 20 streams later, but my yes, it's 20 of them already. My voice should sound, or there should be less noise than usual. What I noticed is that the streams with Treebeard especially really suffered because he's such a low and he goes quite quiet. Now, as Peaches says, it sounds different. Does it sound better or worse? Would it do with being turned up or down, I suppose, is more my question. I've got it quite low already. When I say turned up or down, I mean the filter. The sound filter. Oh, it's Des! Sorry, I'm very focused on this, but it's Dessa. Hello. Yes, that does make sense. You were here singing that. Hang on, let's see if I can, if it will, if we do it like, how does that sound? Does that sound different? Maybe more loudly. Hello, Lowens. Yes, Lowen is the originator for this meme today. But we have. I'm rather proud of this walking video that I've got for you all. Because I finished it not 20 minutes ago, but I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy. Oh no, Peaches. Peaches says I have to go. Oh, for your appointment! Very exciting! It sounds the same? That's a shame. Maybe it doesn't change with the... It doesn't change with the, when I'm streaming. Anyway, well, if it sounds fine, if it sounds alright, we'll leave it like this for a bit. We'll leave it this way. And see how it goes. I do hope it doesn't just completely ruin the quality or something like that, but who knows? We'll give it a go. If you can all hear me, then it should be fine. But yes, very excited for Peaches' appointment. What's everyone saying? Yep. Excellent luck. It shouldn't be good luck, but it should be just an in and out situation. Anyway, yes, we'll leave that. And yes. So how's everybody else? How's everybody else's day been? Peaches asks, is it going to be another Angry at Gandalf stream? I cannot remember how the battle goes in the books. Well, you see, there'll be a brief Angry at Gandalf section because he will leave dramatically and suddenly at some point, but as the meme suggests. But admittedly, it won't be all angry at Gandalf because he's just not here. So it's hard to be angry at him when he's just not around. I could do it, but he's just not just not going to be around as much. So that's good for us. It's good for us. I can't remember if I'm going to be. Again, I have not read The Battle for Helm's Deep in a very long time. So we'll see how it goes. I can't really remember anything about it, really. Seven Stars and Seven Stone says, hello, can't stay for long because I have to teach later. Oh well, good luck with the teaching anyway. Excellent. I have tea. I have tea, and I have peppermint tea, and I have water. I feel prepared. Yeah, I don't know how long it is. I really can't remember because my impression is that it wasn't long. It wasn't a long section because he doesn't generally do long battle scenes. But I think it's more of a build-up than the battle actually being long. But anyway, I can't really remember. So again, we're going in blind. No, I don't think it's too long. Oh no, Seven Stars, Seven Stones, we're happy to have you for any time. Any time at all. Yes, I have the map of the Hornburg up if we ever need to consult it. I might need to twist it around though. It's a bit small on the screen, but I have it to see if we need to consult it. However, the walking video I've done is quite good in terms of you'll be going around Helm's Deep a bit, so you'll probably understand. I think actually I might be quite helpful because I've done because the Lord of the Rings Online battles are actually quite accurate, or they're generally accurate. So you can so you do have a general understanding of, at least I get a general understanding of how the battle goes, especially considering you have to redo them a lot. Battle of Helm's Deep happens many times. Oh my goodness, Peaches, are you still here to kick our bot? We have a bot. Don't know how they found us, but we have a bot. Thank you so much, Peaches. Excellent work. Very quick work. Thank you. Yeah, I have the image of the place in my head. I have the outline of the fortress pretty solidly in my head. Well, I mean, I'm very impressed with your work ethic, Peaches, with your dedication. Sorry, Peaches says, of course, it's my job to take it seriously. I know, you do a very good job. Yeah. So how is everybody else's day? We'll wait just a little bit longer. See if we get more than 9 folk over here, but probably started a bit anyway. Nothing really happened to me today. Nope. I regretfully got back into Cookie Clicker. I don't know why. It's a bad decision. Dessa says they saw 2 very cool insects and 1 cool spider, so pretty great day. Yes, that is a great day. That is a very good day. Oh, I mean, you probably saw this because I posted about it on Tumblr, but last night was it last night or was it the night before? Anyway, one of the nights, my dad came upstairs and said to us, so I was cutting the wood, and then I cut the wood, and then there was a bat inside one of them. So now there's a bat. And all the chickens sleep where we cut wood. So there was just a bat in there, and the chickens were not happy up until the point where they realized it was just kind of a small flying mouse. At which point the most vicious of them started stalking it. But we got in there. My mum grabbed some gardening gloves and scooted it out. It eventually flew out. It got itself out. It seemed no worse for wear. It did a lot of flying around the conservatory, so it seems to be fine. it was very fun though. It was a fun time. Bats are wild. Bats are real wild because they have they're like rats with sticks for arms. Like it's just a stick, and then that stick turns into an entire wing, and you do not know how that happens. It's the wildest thing. I've no idea how that tiny little stick turns into wings. Like the fact that it doesn't look like there's anything in there, any flesh at all. But there is. There's enough for a very large, in comparison to its wingspan, in comparison to its body size, wing. And it does little claws up everywhere. And it was a very sweet little thing. I think it was. I'm not entirely sure if it was a pipistrelle because it was quite. I feel like it was big for pipistrelles. Yeah. They are so fast. Well, admittedly, this one wasn't particularly fast. But I think that was just because it was very aware that it was in an enclosed space, so it was kind of whirling around. But it was pretty fast anyway. Danny says, I want to keep doing Bingo's questline in Lord of the Rings Online, but me thinks I'm a bit under level for the Barrow Downs. Oh, yes you are, I think you are. Well, what level are you, Danny? I mean, if you're under level 21? 21? Yeah, there or thereabouts. Then yes, you are under leveled for the Barrow Downs, unfortunately. 7 Stars from the Stone says, still thinking about Gandalf and Faramir. Aaron's got me deeply self-reflecting. Like, do I love their relationship or am I just romanticizing toxicity? And if so, why? Well, no, because okay, so the way the book writes it, and it's very much a situation of this is me piecing together like the likelihood of something, because I mean the books really don't reflect on their relationship at all. There's all you know is that Faramir idolizes Gandalf and really only cares about his opinion over anyone else's, and that Gandalf knows him, and you want to kind of take that and say, oh well, then they must have a nice relationship. I understand that. I also did that. But the issue is that when it gets down to brass tacks, there is like the pattern that Gandalf shows is not caring about the people he proclaims to care about, having very little empathy, and really manipulating everybody around him. So it would be wild for Faramir to be the only person he hasn't like manipulated. And the problem with that is that if Gandalf only has relationships to use them, which he does, and if Gandalf met Faramir as a child, then Gandalf specifically went into that relationship with that child thinking to manipulate him against his family and his parents. So it's very much the logical conclusion to this idea. Now, Kaz said that Denethor is the one who says that Gandalf, the Boromir was not apt to Gandalf's hand, which is true. Denethor does say that, but what Kaz says is that Denethor's opinion was influenced by the Palantir. Again, we're going back on this. The Palantir does not influence Denethor in terms of it's not corrupting him. The Palantir is just tiring to use because facing against Sauron is draining. He's tired, and it's depressing because he's constantly like watching Sauron try and like give him like suppositions of horrible things happening to him and his family. but it's not any kind of like insidious. Again, we come back to it. None of the actual like magical influences are as like magical as they sound. So Denethor is not brainwashed against Gandalf. He has no idea of Gandalf being his opinion of Gandalf has been formed over many years. And specifically, definitely his opinion of Gandalf has been formed from his and Faramir's relationship and his treatment of Faramir. So the fact that Denethor says this means it's probably true, as well as because the other thing is Gandalf does not deny it. Like, there's not a point where it's like Denethor is like you found Boromir less apt to your hand, didn't you? Gandalf doesn't then say, no, that wasn't what I was doing at all. Blah, blah, blah. No, he just leaves that. He's just like, yeah, you got me. Yeah, that's true. I didn't like Boromir, and I like Faramir because he agrees with me. Yeah, so yeah, Gandalf, like, yeah, he took advantage of Faramir's, what's the word? Faramir's, idolization of him, and somewhat of his isolation. I come back to this concept, but Faramir probably is an isolated child in some respects. Like, he's definitely depending on how you want to view it, Faramir had a different way of thinking and of being than the rest of his family. I tend to think of this as Faramir is autistic, which makes quite a lot of sense, especially considering the way he talks and all of that kind of stuff, and the way he interacts with other people. So with that in mind, Faramir felt some amount of isolation. This is basically Des who really narrowed this down. It's very excellent. Faramir felt some isolation, and Gandalf essentially took advantage of that. He did essentially tell Faramir that his isolation made him special, and that he should be isolated, and he should be set apart so that he could kind of judge people from a distance. And that's obviously not particularly the most healthy conception for a child. But Faramir grew up to thinking this. And it did suit Faramir as well. Like, it suited Faramir to think this way. He liked it. It worked for him. And he didn't really, when he got to be an adult, there wasn't really a point where Faramir was like, let's rethink this. Like, Faramir has never done any particularly long or deep introspection on his opinions and views of his family, etc., etc. Admittedly, probably none of the stewards have done that. Well, no, Denethor's probably done quite a lot of introspection about his own position and stuff, but certainly there's not much space or time for you to do any intense self-reflection when the world's going to end in a bit. It kind of feels a little bit. I can understand it feeling a little bit useless to try and like change yourself now when when everyone is in this dreadful situation where you're pretty much sure, like they've been pretty sure for a very long time now, that he is just that Gondor's going to be destroyed and then the whole world is going to be destroyed. They're all pretty assured about that at this point. So it makes sense that very few of them will be doing much soul searching. I can understand that, or at least soul searching in the sense of like, am I wrong? Have there been things that I can do? Because realistically speaking, thinking about that is just kind of like, well, but there's not much I can do about it now because we're all going to be dead in a bit anyway, so why try at this point? It's also tiring, and you're all very tired because it's distressing to be in this situation. So it's all understandable. It's all very good and characterful. It's all very understandable and intricate, and I love it very much. Like, I love it so much. It's so you can really walk through everyone's point of view. I'm not entirely sure. I would say that probably Tolkien did not mean for this to all have so much meaning, but the way he set it out makes it very easy to understand why these characters do the things they do. We don't know. Maybe he actually meant it, but sorry, I've gone on a long rant and everyone else has been talking about stuff. Lilith Hedgehog says, "Hello, what is the subject of the pre-read rant?" Yes, the preamble, yes, is about Gandalf and Faramir's relationship. And Faramir in general. Seven Stars, Seven Stones says, "I guess I can live with this because it's more trashing Gandalf than Faramir." Seven Stars, oh totally, Dennis is not brainwashed. Yeah, I also love Angrain's meta on how during the books, when we see him, Faramir is highly stressed and maybe saying things from a more reactive emotional space. He's looking for someone to just be on his side. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, this is the issue. They went into this in a space, like Faramir was primed to go into it without much emotional support, because he wasn't supporting anyone else around him either. like this is the issue. Faramir has come off this issue at the end of after they'd retaken half of the Skiliath and blown up the bridge, and then he's immediately thrown into an argument with his brother, and then Boromir leaves, and I'm still pretty sure that they do not make up, and it is not a fond farewell. So Faramir is left in this state of feeling like people aren't listening to him. I can understand that. However, I do have to say that it would have been more mature and adult of him to kind of do just a little bit of soul searching and say to himself, well, maybe I should kind of focus on this now. I shouldn't really I think Faramir got very stuck on the concept that he was the one who should have gone, and I think that frustrated him for a long time, and we can tell it frustrated him for a long time, because it's been like a year and a bit. No, it's been like at least 2 years by the time we get to Frodo, and then he's still talking about it. He's still talking about it. And yes, Des is right. He resents and blames Denethor for Boromir being the one chosen to go. Yes, so he both was angry at Boromir because Boromir did quite a lot of he used what I think is his greater influence on the council to kind of insist that he was the one who went. However, definitely Denethor was the last decision on that, and Denethor, and so Faramir is angry at Boromir for doing that, and then he's angry at Denethor for allowing it to happen. And he kind of holds on to that grudge for a long time, for 2 years, basically. So by the end, him and his relationship with his father is just so crippled by this. And Denethor doesn't want to be doing this to Faramir either. But again, they are in the middle of a war, and they do have people who are relying on them, which is the one thing that Denethor wishes Faramir would get to. Like, that's the main thing here, really. Denethor's like, okay, you don't have to love me or whatever, but I really wish you would focus on the fact that we're here to protect other people. This is not a situation like we're. He wishes that Faramir had a similar kind of conception of what their duty was. Where, I mean, and that's really another of the major conflicts between Faramir and Denethor, although I would say this is probably influenced by Gandalf, and so quite a little bit off. Faramir is pretty much ready to throw in the towel. Faramir's kind of like, well, we're all gonna die, so but the most important thing to me is my honor, and my kind of, not necessarily his honor, but his idealism, his idealistic image of himself. I don't want to contradict that and the ideals that I believe would have been held by higher men a long time ago. So Faramir is far more interested in his sense of but a sense of integrity is too generalized, because it's the sense of integrity he believes the kings would have had, which makes it very Valar orientated. Faramir is basically like, I won't go against what the Valar want me to do, but it's not as clear cut as that, because It's more it's more like complicated. Anyway, we need to stop this because we've been going for 25 minutes. Good lord, good lord, that was a long preamble. We will start now. But yes. So I've got to. I know I still have to reply to Kaz because I've just been very sleepy recently. Also, I've been thinking a lot about Gondorian courtship traditions. Me and Des got very excited. we got real excited. Oh, I'm so sorry, Peaches. I ranted for the whole time you were here. I'm very sorry, but I hope you have a. I hope the appointment goes swimmingly and wonderfully, and I hope you get home okay. And lovely having you here as long as we did. But right, let's get to this. So, Helm's Deep, chapter 7 apparently. This is chapter 7 apparently, but I guess it is for this book. The sun was already westering as they rode from Edoras. Oh! Aha! We have a new walking video! And we're going from Edoras. Admittedly, the sun has already pretty much westered at this point, but I couldn't quite get the timings right. It's prettier like this. It is prettier like this, because it's like, the stars are lovely. So we're going to be leaving Edoras, and then we're going to get to Helm's Deep, and then we're going to go through the whole of Helm's Deep. I can't remember how long this video is. I can't remember. Anyway, sorry. The sun was already westering as they rode from Edoras, and the light of it was in their eyes, turning all the rolling fields of Rohan into a golden haze. There was a beaten way, north-westward along the foothills of the White Mountains, and this they followed up and down in a green country, crossing small, swift streams by many fords. Far ahead and to their right, the misty mountains loomed, ever darker and taller. They grew as the wait, hang on. To their right? Oh, I see. Yes, because they're the White Mountains to the left, and the Misty Mountains are kind of to their right, but up. Yes, okay. Far ahead and to their right, the misty mountains loomed. Ever darker and taller they grew as the miles went by. The sun went slowly down before them. Evening came behind. The host rode on. Need drove them. Fearing to come too late, they rode with all the speed they could, pausing seldom. Swift and enduring were the steeds of Rohan, but there were many leagues to go. 40 leagues, and more it was, as a bird flies, from Edoras to the fords of the Isen, where they hoped to find the king's men that held back the hosts of Saruman. Night closed about them. At last they halted to make their camp. They had ridden for some 5 hours, and were far out upon the western plain, yet more than half their journey still lay before them. In a great circle under the starry sky and the waxing moon, they now made their bivouac. They lit no fires, for they were uncertain of events, but they set a ring of mounted guards about them, and scouts rode out far ahead, passing like shadows in the folds of the land. The slow night passed without tidings or alarm. At dawn the horn sounded, and within an hour they took to the road again. There were no clouds overhead, but a heaviness was in the air. It was hot for the summer. It was hot for the season of the year. The rising sun was hazy, and behind it, following it slowly up the sky, there was a growing darkness, as of a great storm moving out of the east. And away in the northwest, there seemed to be another darkness brooding about the feet of the misty mountains, a shadow that crept down slowly from the wizard's veil. Gandalf dropped back to where Legolas rode beside Éomer. "You have keen eyes of your fair kindred, Legolas," he said, "and they can tell a sparrow from a finch a league off. Tell me, can you see anything away yonder towards Isengard?" "Many miles lie between," said Legolas, gazing thither and shading his eyes with his long hand. I can see a darkness. There are shapes moving in it, great shapes, far away upon a bank of the river. But what they are I cannot tell. It is not mist or cloud that defeats my eyes. There is a veiling shadow that some power lays upon the land, and it marches slowly down the stream. It is as if the twilight under endless trees were flowing downwards from the hills.
And behind us comes a very storm of Mordor, said Gandalf. It will be a black night.
As the second day of their riding drew on, the heaviness in the air increased. In the afternoon the dark clouds began to overtake them. A sombre canopy with great billowing edges flecked the dazzling light. The sun went down, blood-red in a smoking haze. The spears of the riders were tipped with fire as the last shafts of light kindled the steep faces of the peaks of Threhearne. We'll go with that. Now very near they stood in the northernmost arms of the White Mountains, 3 jagged horns staring at the sunset. It was the last red glow men in the vanguard saw. In the last red glow, men in the vanguard saw a black speck, a horseman riding back towards them. They halted, awaiting him. He came, a weary man with a dented helm and cloven shield. Slowly he climbed from his horse and stood there a while gasping. At length he spoke.
"Is Éomer here?" he asked. "You come at last, but too late and with too little strength. Things have gone evilly since Theodred fell. We were driven back yesterday over the Isen with great loss. Many perished at the crossings, but then at night fresh forces came over the river against our camp. All Isengard must be emptied, and Saruman has armed the wild hillmen and herdfolk of Dunland beyond the rivers, and these also he loosed upon us. We were overmastered. The shield wall was broken. Erkenbrand of Westfold has drawn off those men he could gather towards his fastness in Helm's Deep. The rest are scattered. Where is Éomer? Tell him there is no hope ahead. He should return to Edoras before the wolves of Isengard come here."
Theoden had sat silent, hidden among from the man's sight behind his guards. Now he urged his horse forward.
"Come, stand before me, Ciol," he said. "I am here. The last host of the Eolingas has ridden forth. It will not return without battle."
The man's face lightened with joy and wonder. He drew himself up. Then he knelt, offering his notched sword to the king.
"Command me, lord," he cried, "and pardon me. You thought I remained in Meduseld, bent like an old tree under the winter snow. So it was when you rode to war, but a west wind has shaken the boughs," said Theoden. "Give this man a fresh horse. Let us ride to the help of Erkenbrand."
While Theoden was speaking, Gandalf rode a short way ahead, and he sat there alone, gazing north to Isengard and west to the setting sun. Now he came back.
"Ride, Theoden," he said. "Ride to Helm's Deep. Go not to the fords of Isen, and do not tarry in the plain. I must leave you for a while. Shadowfax must bear me now in a swift errand."
Turning to Aragorn and Éomer and the men of the king's household, he cried,
"Keep well the Lord of the Mark till I return. Await me at Helm's Gate. Farewell."
He spoke a word to Shadowfax, and like an arrow from the bow, the great horse sprang away. Even as they looked, he was gone. A flash of silver in the sunset, a wind over the grass, a shadow that fled and passed from sight. Snowmane snorted and reared, eager to follow, but only a swift bird on the wing could have overtaken him.
"What does that mean?"
said one of the guard to Amma. Yes, this is my favorite bit. Hang on. Oh, bugger. Yes, the meme kicks in, yes. Oh, hello, honeybee. Welcome in. You could have just said, like, just hang on. Like, it would have been faster to say, hang on, I don't think Erkenbrand is there. I'm just gonna go check where Erkenbrand is, because you're gonna need him. I'll be back, hopefully, with Erkenbrand. And everyone will be like, oh, yeah, that sounds good. We would also like Erkenbrand to be here. But no, of course not. You fool, you think a wizard tells anybody what he's doing? Never. Never. Right, okay. Where was I?
What does that mean? Said one of the guard to Hammer. Well, that Gandalf Greyheim has need of haste, answered Hammer. Ever he goes and comes unlooked for. Wormtongue, were he here, would not find it hard to explain, said the other. True enough, said Hammer, but for myself I will wait until I see Gandalf again. Maybe you will wait long, said the other.
I really love all the sassy Rohirrim. There are a lot of sassy Rohirrim, and I like every single one of them so much.
The host turned away now from the road to the fords of Isen and bent their course southward.
Oh, we're still going on this. We're still being told where we're going now. Thank you, Tolkien. I get it. Yes, we're going up and then down and then west. I get it.
Southward, night fell, and still they rode on. The hills drew near, but the tall peaks of Thrihirn, I've no idea, were already dim against the darkening sky. Still some miles away, on the far side of the Westfold Vale, lay a green coombe, a great bay in the mountains, out of which a gorge opened in the hills. Men of that land called it Helm's Deep, after a hero of old wars, who had made his refuge there. Ever steeper and narrower it wound inward from the north under the shadow of Thrihirni, till the crow-haunted cliffs rose like mighty towers on either side, shutting out the light. At Helm's Gate, before the mouth of the deep, there was a heel of rock thrust outward by the northern cliff. There, upon its spur, stood high walls of ancient stone, and within them was a lofty tower. Men said that, in the far-off days of the glory of Gondor, the Sea Kings had built here this fastness with the hands of giants. The Hornburg it was called, for a trumpet sounded upon the tower, echoed in the deep behind, as if armies long forgotten were issuing to war from caves beneath the hills. A wall, too, the men of old had made from the Hornburg to the southern cliff, barring the entrance to the gorge. Beneath it, by a wide culvert, the deeping stream passed. About the feet of Hornrock it wound, and flowed then in a gully through the midst of a wide green gore, sloping gently down from Helm's Gate to Helm's Dyke. Thence it fell into the deeping coombe, and out into the Westfold Vale. There, in the Hornburg at Helm's Gate, Erkenbrand, master of Westfold on the borders of the Mark, now dwelt. As the days darkened with threat of war, being wise, he had repaired the wall and made the fastness strong. Okay, briefly, we are going to put this up. So let's make this a bit bigger. So, oof. Actually, this is less helpful. Actually, no. Okay. So, we kind of have Okay, so we have we actually can't see Helm's. Oh no, we can see Helm's Dyke. Okay, so the road comes in. You have all the hills, and then the road comes in, and you can see the large dike, which is the circle around. You can't see my mouse, but I promise I'm trying to be as helpful as possible. So, and then this is a very small little, but you can see where the fortress is. It's much less complicated than he makes it sound. It's much less complicated than it makes it sound. There's a dike, and then behind it, there's a wall, and there's a keep there. And this is what it looks like. So you've got Deeping Wall down below, and then this large keep out here. And then you have the back of it, and behind the wall there's like an area at the back, and then you can go into a cave, and you can go into Aglaron, which is in the glittering caves back there. It's not as complicated as he makes it sound, but he makes it sound very complicated. We will need this again, no doubt. But we'll put it off for now. I hope I get to Helm's Deep kind of fast in the. Can't really think. I think it's about 40 minutes before I actually get to Helm's Deep, which is unfortunate. Although we're about to get into the
uh, we're about to get into one of the burned villages that are outside, which is pretty cool. There's also just lots of wargs wandering around here. Okay. The riders were still in the low valley before the mouth of the Coombe, when cries and horn blasts were heard from their scouts that went in front. Out of the darkness, arrows whistled. Swiftly, a scout rode back and reported that wolf riders were abroad in the valley, and that a host of orcs and wildmen were hurrying southward from the fords of Isen, and seemed to be making for Helm's Deep. Huh. I did not know. I thought that the wolf riders. I mean, I knew that the wolf riders were a thing, but I didn't. I sort of thought that the wolf riders were kind of a film fabrication, but no, we have them. Then he says the burned villages, which is cool. Listen. It's good flavor. It's good flavor. It's very good. It's good to show the kind of stress that Rohan was under. I like it. I like it very much, or at least I like the example of the string. Anyway, yes, the wildmen were hurrying southward from the fords of Isen and seemed to be making for Helm's Deep. "We have found many of our folk lying slain as they fled thither," said the scout, "and we have met scattered companies going this way and that, leaderless. What has become of Erkenbrand none seem to know. It is likely that he will be overtaken ere he can reach Helm's Gate, if he has not already perished." "Has aught been seen of Gandalf?" asked Theoden. "Yes, lord. Many have seen an old man in white upon a horse, passing thither and hither over the plains like wind in the grass. Some thought he was Saruman. It is said that he went away ere nightfall towards Isengard. Some say also that Wormtongue was seen earlier, going northward with a company of orcs." "It will go ill with Wormtongue if Gandalf comes upon him," said Theoden. "Nonetheless, I miss now both my counsellors, the old and the new. But in this need we have no better choice than to go on, as Gandalf said, to Helm's Gate, whether Erkenbrand be there or no. Is it known how great is the force that comes from the north?" "It is very great," said the scout. "He that flies counts every foeman twice, yet I have spoken to stout-hearted men, and I do not doubt that the main strength of the enemy is many times as great as all that we have here." "Then let us be swift," said Éomer. "Let us drive through such foes as are already between us and the fastness. There are caves in Helm's Deep where hundreds may lie hid, and secret ways led thence up into the hills." "Trust not to secret ways," said the king. "Saruman has long spied out this land. Still, in that place our defence may last long. Let us go." Aragorn and Legolas went now with Éomer in the van. There was something I wanted to talk about. Oh yes, Theoden is still missing Wormtongue. Again, we're just going to briefly take. Yes, exactly. I missed both my counselors. We're going to briefly take a moment. We won't touch on this more than we did before. But again, Theoden was completely lucid, and he misses Grima because he valued his opinion, because he always valued Grima's opinion, because he was a counselor and he was a good one for a while, and then Theoden decided to trust him over Theodred. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. But Theoden misses him. It's wild. I didn't say this in the last stream, and we're just gonna say it, and then we're gonna move on real quick. But actually, no, I'm not even gonna say it. I'm sorry. That was real. That was real cheeky of me. But I don't know. It just seems like Theoden's really attached to Grima. That's all I'm yes. That's all I'm gonna say. It just seems like he's really attached. We're gonna move on. Aragorn and Legolas went now with Éomer in the van. On through the dark night they rode, ever slower as the darkness deepened. Honeybee says, "Glad Theoden's finally making his own damn decisions." Well, yes, but he hates it. He hates doing it. He's like, God, I wish somebody was here to make my decision for me. Which I guess, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's very characterful. A lot of these men who are leaders that Tolkien makes are like, are like, I really wished you weren't asking me for a decision. It's very funny. It's very funny. And then the ones who do want to make decisions are bad? Come on. Anyway. Okay. On through the dark night they rode, ever slower as the darkness deepened, and their way climbed southward, higher and higher into the dim folds about the mountain's feet. They found few of the enemy before them. Here and there they came upon roving bands of orcs, but they fled ere the riders could take or slay them. Interesting. Honeybee says Aragorn and Legolas went now with Éomer in the van. Excuse me, wait, what year is it? The van here means the vanguard, I think. As in the front. It is a road trip, though. It still is. Danny says they've got like those little family vans with the little TV at the top. Yes, the mystery machine. Yes, yes, Legolas and Gimli and Aragorn all in the mystery machine. Let's go, gang. What does Fred say? Let's solve the mystery or something. I can't remember Fred's catchphrase. Anyway. It will not be long, I fear, said Éomer, ere the coming of the king's host will be known to the leader of our enemies, Saruman, or whatever captain he has sent forth. The rumour of war grew behind them. Now they could hear, borne over the dark, the sound of harsh singing. They had climbed far up into the deep encoomb when they looked back. Then they saw torches, countless points of fiery light upon the black fields behind, scattered like red flowers, or winding up from the lowlands in long flickering lines. Oh, we've actually done it. We've actually made it quite good because this. So the thing we're just coming up on. This is Helm's Dyke. We're just coming up on it now, and this is the Thrymhirni. I'm not a fan of this word. Usually I like most of Tolkien's words. This one I'm not a fan of. Any way to say it sounds bad. But yeah, this is good. We're just about to come to Helm's Dyke, and we're going to meet Gimli and Gamling, who are at the front. Oh dear. Oh yes, that was the way. Anyway. Yeah, they then saw torches, countless points of fiery light upon the black fields. That is actually quite a terrifying. That's a really good image. Like you're walking into here. Imagine it's dark. You're walking into here, you get up onto a kind of a hill, and then you look back and there's just this wash of black with a few dotted torches moving in the darkness. Like, that's a terrifying image, and it would definitely make you maybe skip a little faster to get into the Helm's Dyke. I do like the imagery. I like the imagery in this book. Countless points of fiery light upon the black fields behind, scattered like red flowers, or winding up from the lowlands in long flickering lines. Here and there a larger blaze leapt up. It is a great host and follows us hard, said Aragorn. They bring fire, said Theoden, and they are burning as they come, rick, cot, and tree. This was a rich vale, and had many homesteads. Alas for my folk! Would that day was here, and we might ride down upon them like a storm out of the mountains, said Aragorn. It grieves me to fly before them. We need not fly much further, said Éomer. Not far ahead now lies Helm's Dyke, an ancient trench, and ramparts scored across the coombe, 2 furlongs below Helm's Gate. There we can turn and give battle. Nay, we are too few to defend the dyke, said Theoden. It is a mile long or more, and the breach in it is wide. Oh, sorry. I was lost as to who was speaking. At the breach our rearguard must stand if we are pressed, said Éomer. Danny says, "Hey, remember when the movies had Aragorn fall off a cliff, get a kiss from a horse, and then ride right in front of the Uruk host?" No, I don't remember that. I don't remember that at all. There's nothing. Look, there's Gamling. And here's Gimli. He's inspecting the dike. He's like, this is bad stonework. Gimli's like, this isn't very good. I don't think this is a good thing. Admittedly, the dike is not long enough. It's definitely not a mile long, at least. Or maybe it is. Maybe it is. But it's got a cool lead up to the to Helm's Deep. Anyway, oh my god. There was neither star nor moon when the riders came to the breach in the dike, where the stream from above passed out, and the road beside it ran down from the Hornberg. The rampart loomed suddenly before them, a high shadow beyond a dark pit. As they rode up, a sentinel challenged them. "The Lord of the Mark rides to Helm's Gate," Eomer answered. "I, Eomer, son of Eamon, speak." "Oh, this is good tidings beyond hope," said the sentinel. "Hasten, the enemy is at your heels." The host passed through the breach, and halted on the sloping sward above. They now learned, to their great joy, that Erkenbrand had left many men to hold Helm's Gate, and more had since escaped thither. "Maybe we have 1,000 fit to fight on foot," said Gamling, an old man, the leader of those that watched the dike. "But most of them have seen too many winters, as I have, or too few, as my son's son here." "Oh no, my son's... oh gosh. Well, now we're getting emotional. Now I'm emotional. Now we're getting to the emotional part, because this is actually an emotional bit that I forgot that actually I care about all these fellows, all these good fellows. Okay. Oh, this is a good point. Danny asks, so what was the whole thing in the movies where Eomer was banished? So basically, Eomer takes the place of Erkenbrand. Basically, I mean, this was probably technically a good decision, in terms of filming, because you don't want to have too many characters on screen, so they just swapped out Eomer for Erkenbrand. Oh, Erkenbrand for Eomer. So by deciding that, rather than being imprisoned, Eomer was banished, it meant that then Gandalf could go and get Eomer instead of Erkenbrand. It's kind of, I would say, as far as changes that the film did, it's a good change. Who the fuck is Erkenbrand? Another dude. Another dude with a horse. And in terms of, and whilst I love him very much, in terms of a film, it's hard to have like 30 dudes on horses, all of whom's names you have to remember. So it's like the switch for Arwen for Glorfindel. I approve of this one, but I mean it does make it sad, because it means that you don't get the kind of concept, like Helm's Deep looks like a really abandoned fortress rather than like a constantly an already manned, fully alive fortress that is constantly being defended and hosts quite a large force. And Erkenbrand, it doesn't have the same kind of feeling that because Erkenbrand's still at war, like he's been doing this for a while. This is not just like a sudden engagement that has just started. There's been lots of battles going on, and you kind of get the feeling that isn't the case in the film. But anyway, it's fine. I accept it. We're coming into the beautiful Helm's Deep again. Lord of the Rings Online. I was okay, kind of, with the architecture of Rohan in the film until I saw Lord of the Rings Online, at which point I was like, wait, they're right. This place was built by the Numenorians, or at least the Gondorians, and is huge and has been here for a long time. It shouldn't be so sparse. Anyway, all right then, we'll keep going. Yes, Gamling. We got to my boy Gamling, who I do love. Yes, the host passed through the breach and halted on the sloping sward above.
They now learned to their joy that Erkenbrand had left many men to hold Helm's Gate, and more had since escaped thither. Maybe we have 1,000 fit to fight. What is gambling? That sounds too much like Theoden. Maybe we have 1,000 fit to fight on foot, said Gambling, an old man, the leader of those that watch the dike. But most of them have seen too many winters, as have I, or too few, as my son's son here. What news of Erkenbrand? Word came yesterday that he was retreating hither, with all that was left of the best riders of the Westfold, but he has not come. I fear that he will not come now, said Eomer. Our scouts have gained no news of him, and the enemy fills all the valley behind us. I would that he had escaped, said Theoden. He was a mighty man. In him lived again the valour of Helm the Hammerhand. But we cannot await him here. We must draw all our forces now behind the walls. Are you well stored? We bring little provision, for we rode forth to open battle, not to a siege. All behind us, in the caves of the deep, are 3 parts of the folk of Westfold, old and young, women and children, said Gambling. But great store of food, and many beasts, and their fodder. We have also been gathered here. Well, that is well, said Eomer. They are burning or despoiling all that is left in the vale. If they come to bargain for our goods at Helm's Gate, they will pay a high price, said Gambling. That's good. The king and his riders passed on. Before the causeway that crossed the stream, they dismounted. In a long file they led their horses up the ramp, and passed within the gates of the Hornburg. There they were welcomed again with joy and renewed hope, for now there were men enough to man both the burg and the barrier wall. Quickly Eomer set his men in readiness. The king and the men of his household were in the Hornburg, and there also were many of the Westfold men. But on the Deeping Wall and its tower, and behind it, Eomer arrayed the most of the strength that he had, for here the defence seemed more doubtful, if the assault were determined and in great force. The horses were led far up the deep, under such guard as could be spared. Aww. They really do love their horses. We're about to go to... time is this? Yes, I'm just wandering around. Oh yes, I'm just wandering around. Okay. The Deeping Wall was 20 feet high, and so thick that 4 men could walk abreast along the top, sheltered by a parapet over which only a tall man could look. Here and there were clefts in the stone, through which men could shoot. This battlement could be reached by a stair running down from a door in the outer court of the Hornburg. 3 flights of steps led also up onto the wall from the deep behind, but in front it was so smooth, and the great stones of it were set with such skill that no foothold could be found at their joints, and at the top they hung over like a sea-delved cliff. Gimli stood leaning against the breastwork upon the wall. Legolas sat above on the parapet, fingering his bow again, and peering out into the gloom. "All this is more to my liking," said the dwarf, stamping on the stones. "Ever my heart rises as we draw near the mountains. There is good rock here. The country has tough bones. I felt them in my feet as we came up from the dike. Give me a year and 100 of my kin, and I would make this a place that armies would break upon like water." "Oh, I do not doubt it," said Legolas. "But you are a dwarf, and dwarves are strange folk. I do not like this place, and I shall like it no more by the light of day. But you comfort me, Gimli, and I am glad to have you standing nigh with your stout legs and your hard axe. I wish there were more of your kin among us, but even more would I give for 100 good archers of Mirkwood. We shall need them. The Rohirrim have good bowmen after their fashion, but there are too few here, too few." "It is dark for archery," said Gimli. "Indeed, it is time for sleep. Sleep! I feel the need for it, as never I thought any dwarf could. Riding is hard work, yet my axe is restless in my hand. Give me a row of orc necks and room to swing, and all weariness will fall from me." A slow time passed. Far down in the valley, scattered fires still burned. The hosts of Isengard were advancing in silence now. Their torches could be seen winding up the coombe in many lines. Suddenly from the dike, yells and screams, and the fierce battle cries of men broke out. Flaming brands appeared over the brink, and clustered thickly at the breach. Then they scattered and vanished. Men came galloping back over the field and up the ramp to the gate of the Hornburg. The rearguard of the Westfolders have been driven in. "Well, the enemy is at hand," they said. Yes, it's a very cute moment. They just have this is a little cute moment. Oh, we're gonna go and find Aragorn. We're just about to find Aragorn and Éomer on the stream. I really do remember a lot about this. I really can make my way around this large fortress quite easily. Yeah, Aragorn looks wild. I do not approve of this Aragorn in Lord of the Rings Online. He's way too chiseled, and he looks way too tough. Like, look at this man. He's far too well fed. This fellow's far too well fed. Éomer's good though. I like his little like braids on the side. Looks cute. Excellent. Anyway, the enemy is at hand, they said. We loosed every arrow that we had and filled the dike with orcs, but it will not halt them long. Already they are scaling the bank at many points, thick as marching ants, but we have taught them not to carry torches. Well, that's bad. We needed the stuff. Anyway, it was now past midnight. Oh, let's get to... Hang on, because we're about to get to midnight, and we can go on. Because also this is Theoden here, who also looks great. I love Theoden. Look at him with his big long hair and his big long beard. He's a good boy. This Hedgehog makes a good point. Aragorn has not been able to wash because he literally just came to Edoras and then they left immediately afterwards. There's no way this man has had any kind of time to give himself a bath. So he definitely... They all should be absolutely covered in dirt. They all should be absolutely covered in dirt. Also, I don't think... They haven't had a rest since... Oh, also, look at the Hall of Helm's Deep. Look at it. It's so good. It's so beautiful. Every single hall in Lord of the Rings Online of the Rohirrim is just so beautiful. And Helm, the tapestry of Helm is so good. Oh. So good. It looks so good. Yes, braids! They have cool braids and everything. Like, we miss these things, and I miss them. I miss the braids. But Peter Jackson was too much of a coward. He was thinking, oh, well, he'll look too dorky if we give him braids. No! Fools. Fools, I tell you. Sorry, I'm just very involved in the thing. But anyway, we're about to go and go and test, so we'll start. A slow time passed. Far down in the valley, scattered fires still burned. The hosts of Isengard were advancing in silence now. Their torches could be seen winding up the coombe in many lines. Oh wait, I've already read that bit, sorry. It was now past midnight. The sky was utterly dark, and the stillness of the heavy air foreboded storm. Suddenly, the clouds were seared by a blinding flash. Branched lightning smote down upon the eastward hills. For a staring moment, the watchers on the walls saw all the space between them and the dike lit with white light. It was boiling and crawling with dark shapes, some squat and some broad, some tall and grim, with high helms and sable shields. Hundreds and hundreds more were pouring over the dike and through the breach. The dark tide flowed up to the walls from cliff to cliff. Thunder rolled in the valley. Rain came lashing down. Arrows thick as the rain came whistling over the battlements and fell clinking and glancing on the stones. Some found a mark. The assault on Helm's Deep had begun, but no sound or challenge was heard within. No answering arrows came. The assailing hosts halted, foiled by the silent menace of rock and wall. Ever and again the lightning tore aside the darkness. Then the orcs screamed, waving spear and sword, and shooting a cloud of arrows at any that stood revealed upon the battlements. And the men of Mark amazed looked out, as it seemed to them, upon a great field of dark corn, tossed by a tempest of war, every ear glinted with barbed light. Oof. Oof.
You do a good job. It's very scary. It's scary. Brazen trumpets sounded. The enemies surged forward, some against the deeping wall, others towards the causeway and the ramp that led up to the Hornburg gates. There the hugest orcs were mustered, and the wild men of the Dunland fells. A moment they hesitated, and then on they came. The lightning flashed and blazoned upon every helm and shield. The ghastly hand of Isengard was seen. They reached the summit of the rock. They drove towards the gates. Then at last an answer came. A storm of arrows met them, and a hail of stones. They wavered, broke, and fled back, and then charged again. Broke and charged again, and each time, like the oncoming sea, they halted at a higher point. Again trumpets rang, and a press of roaring men leapt forth. They held their great shields above them like a roof, while in the midst they bore 2 trunks of mighty trees. Behind them orc archers crowded, sending a hail of darts against the bowmen on the walls. They gained the gates. The trees, swung by strong arms, smote the timbers with a rending boom. If any man fell, crushed by a stone hurtling from above, 2 others sprang to take his place. Again and again the great rams swung and crashed. Éomer and Aragorn stood together on the deeping wall. They heard the roar of voices and the thudding of the rams, and then in a sudden flash of light they beheld the peril of the gates. "Come," said Aragorn, "this is the hour when we draw swords together." Running like fire, they sped along the wall, and up the steps, and passed into the outer court upon the rock. As they ran, they gathered a handful of stout swordsmen. There was a small postern door that opened in an angle of the burg wall on the west, where the cliff stretched out to meet it. On that side, a narrow path ran towards the great gate, between the wall and the sheer brink of the rocks. Together, Éomer and Aragorn sprang through the door, their men close behind. The 2 swords flashed from the sheath at once. "Guthwine!" cried Éomer. "Guthwine for the mark!" Oh dear, we have to poison their swords. "Anduril!" cried Aragorn. "Anduril for the Dunedain!" Charging from the side, they hurled themselves upon the wild men. Anduril rose and fell, gleaming with white fire. A shout went up from the wall and tower. "Anduril! Anduril goes to war! The blade that was broken shines again!" Who said that? Aragorn? Never mind. Dismayed, the rammers let fall the trees and turned to fight, but the wall of their shields was broken as by a lightning stroke, and they were swept away, hewn down or cast over the rock into the stony stream below. The orc archers shot wildly, and then fled. For a moment, Éomer and Aragorn halted before the gates. The thunder was rumbling in the distance now. The lightning flickered still. Far off, along the mountains, in the south, the lightning flickered still far off among the mountains in the south. A keen wind was blowing from the north again. The clouds were torn and drifting, and stars peeped out, and above the hills of the Coombe side the westering moon rose, glimmering yellow in the storm rack. "We did not come too soon," said Aragorn, looking at the gates. "Their great hinges and iron bars were wrenched and bent. Many of their timbers were cracked." "Yet we cannot stay here beyond the walls to defend them," said Éomer. "Look!" He pointed to the causeway. Already a great press of orcs and men were gathering again beyond the stream. Arrows whined and skipped on the stones about them. "Come! We must get back and see what we can do to pile stone and beam across the gates within. Come now!" They turned and ran. At that moment some dozen orcs that had lain motionless among the slain leapt to their feet and came silently and swiftly behind. 2 flung themselves to the ground at Éomer's heels, tripped him, and in a moment they were on top of him. A small dark figure that none had observed sprang out of the shadows and gave a hoarse shout. "Baruk Khazad! Khazad Aimenu!" And an axe swung and swept back. 2 orcs fell headless. The rest fled. Éomer struggled to his feet, even as Aragorn ran back to his aid. I forgot about that. Thanks. Thanks, Gimli. That's wonderful of you. Oh, I miss Gimli saving Éomer's life. I miss it. The postern was closed again. The iron door was barred and piled inside with stones. When all was safe within, Éomer turned. "Why, thank you, Gimli, son of Glóin," he said. Glóin. "I did not know that you were with us in the sortie, but oft the unbidden guest proves the best company. How came you there?" "Well, I followed you to shake off sleep," said Gimli.
But I looked on the hillmen, and they seemed over large for me, so I sat beside a stone to see your swordplay. I shall not find it easy to repay you, said Éomer. Well, there may be chance ere the night is over, laughed the dwarf, but I am content. Till now I have hewn naught but wood since I left Moria. 2, said Gimli, patting his axe. He had returned to his place on the wall. 2, said Legolas. I have done better, though now I must grope for spent arrows. All mine are gone. Yet I take my tale 20 at least, but that is only a few leaves in a forest. They're cute. It's cute. It's all very cute. Oh, here we go. The sky now was quickly clearing, and the sinking moon was shining brightly, but the light brought little hope to the riders of the Mark. The enemy before them seemed to have grown rather than diminished, and still more were pressed up against the valley through the breach. The sortie upon the rock gained only a brief respite. The assault on the gates was redoubled. Against the deepening wall, the hosts of Isengard poured like a sea. The orcs and hillmen swarmed about its feet from end to end. Ropes with grappling hooks were hurled upon the parapets faster than men could cut them or fling them back. Hundreds of long ladders were lifted up. Many were cast down in ruin, but many more replaced them, and orcs sprang up them like apes in the dark forest of the south. Oh! Oh! Okay. So, there are apes, and they're in some dark forests of the south. But, now how south? Tolkien? 'Cause you didn't specify. So I can say that's Gondor or Ithilien still. Ha! 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 Yes! Oh, victory for me. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Yes. Yes. Excellent. Before the wall's foot, the dead and broken were piled like shingle in a storm. Ever higher rose the hideous mounds, and still the enemy came on. The men of Rohan grew weary. All their arrows were spent, and every shaft was shot. Their swords were notched, and their shields were riven. 3 times Aragorn and Éomer rallied them, and 3 times Andúril flamed in a desperate charge that drove the enemy from the wall. Then a clamour arose in the deep behind. Orcs had crept like rats through the culvert, through which the stream flowed out. There they gathered in the shadow of the cliffs until the assault above was hottest, and nearly all the men of the defence had rushed to the wall's top. Then they sprang out. Already some had passed into the jaws of the deep, and were among the horses, fighting with the guards. Down... hang on. Gathered in also crept the rats to the culvert through which the stream... they gathered in so they saw the hottest and they all know that the rest of the and they sprang out from the... Oh, okay, so the culvert was actually just open this whole time. Huh? That seems pretty wild. That seemed pretty wild. But the culvert was just open. I thought there was a grate on it. But never mind. I guess they must have... Maybe they rent the grate. That's probably it. They rent the grate. Okay. Down from the wall leapt Gimli with a fierce cry that echoed in the cliffs. Khazad! Khazad! He soon had work enough. I'm not going to say. Ahoy! He shouted. Ahoy! The orcs are behind the wall! Come, Legolas! There are enough for both of us. Khazad Eminu! It's hard to say war cries when I'm reading, but never mind. Gamling the Old looked down from the Hornburg, hearing the great voice of the dwarf above all the tumult. The orcs are in the deep, he cried. Helm, helm, forth, Helmingas! He shouted as he leapt down the stair from the rock with many men of the Westfold at his back. Oh, okay, so Helmingas is named. Helmingas is a thing. They do have, like, Helmingas is a thing, but it's not like Eolingas. It must be like Eolingas. It's people of Eol, and this is people of Helm. So I guess it's just that they differentiate them. I suppose that makes sense because Helm is of a different line of Eol than Theoden is. Isn't he? Am I wrong?
I think that's right because Helm's child, yes, his daughter dies or it flees or something. Never mind. Their onset was force and sudden, fierce and sudden, and the orcs gave way before them. Ere long they were hemmed in the narrows of the gorge, and all were slain or driven, shrieking into the chasm of the deep to fall before the guardians of the hidden caves.
21! Cried Gimli. He hewed a two-handed stroke and laid the last orc before his feet. Now my count passes Master Legolas again. We must stop this rat hole, said Gimli. Dwarves are said to be cunning folk with stone. Lend us your aid, master. For we do not shape stone with battle axes, nor with our fingernails, said Gimli. Oh, but I will help as I may. They gathered such small boulders and broken stones as they could find to hand, and under Gimli's direction the Westfold men blocked up the inner end of the culvert until only a narrow outlet remained. Then the deeping stream, swollen by the rain, churned and fretted in its choked path, and spread slowly in cold pools from the cliff to cliff. It will be drier above, said Gimli. Come, Gamling, let us see how things go on the wall. He climbed up, and found Legolas beside Aragorn and Éomer. The elf was whetting his long knife. There was for a while a lull in the assault, since the attempt to break in through the culvert had been foiled. 21, said Gimli. Oh, good, said Legolas. But my count is now 24. It has been knife work up here. He's so smug. Éomer and Aragorn leant warily on their swords. Away in the left, the crash and clamour of the battle on the rock rose loud again.
Death says, only time I hate to hear about rats. What was that? What was about the rats? I remember. Did they describe rats at some point? I read something and then I forget it immediately afterwards. Oh, here are the glittering caves, which are very lovely and I really do like a lot. I do like them a lot, actually. I wasn't sure about them at first, but actually they do quite a good job of the glittering caves. Anyway, Éomer and Aragorn leant wearily on their swords. Away on the left, the clash and clamour of the battle on the rock rose loud again, but the Hornburg still held fast, like an island in the sea. Its gate lay in ruin, but over the barricade of beams and stones within no enemy had yet passed. Aragorn looked at the pale stars and at the moon, now sloping behind the western hills that disclosed the valley. This is a night as long as years, he said. How long will the day tarry? Dawn is not far off, said Gamling, who had now climbed up beside him. But dawn will not help us, I fear. Yet dawn is ever the hope of men, said Aragorn. But these are creatures of Isengard, these half-orcs and goblin men that the foul craft of Saruman has bred. They will not quail at the sun, said Gamling, and neither will the wild men of the hills. Do you not hear their voices? Well, I hear them, said Éomer, but they are only the scream of birds and the bellowing of beasts to my ears. Thank you, Éomer. That's great. It's great, Éomer. It's wonderful. It's wonderful that you say that, Éomer. It's just great that the Rohirrim have a specific people that they get to oppress. And they can call them animals. It's just... Anyway.
Yet there are many that cry in the Dunman tongue, said Gamling. I know that tongue. It is an ancient speech of men, and once was spoken in many western valleys in the Mark. Hark! They hate us, and they are glad, for our doom seems certain to them. The king, they cry. We will take their king. Death to the Foregoyle. Death to the Strawheads. Death to the robbers of the north. Such names they have for us. Not in 500 years have they forgotten their grievance, that the lords of Gondor gave the mark of Eol to the young, Eol the young, and made alliance with them. That old hatred Saruman has inflamed. They are a fierce folk when roused. They will not give way now for dusk or dawn until Theoden is slain, or they themselves are slain. Nonetheless, day will bring hope to me, said Aragorn. Is it not said that no foe has ever taken the Hornburg if men have defended it? Well, so the minstrels say, said Éomer. Well, then let us defend it and hope, said Aragorn. Damn it, that was kind of cool. Aragorn is unfortunately cool in this bit. Like, it's quite cool, the things that he says and does. He has a cool bit in this bit. It's quite cool. I like it quite a lot. Except for the sword stuff. The other stuff is quite funny and cool. It's a shame. Even as they spoke, there came a blare of trumpets. Then there was a clash and a flash of flame and smoke. The waters of the deeping stream poured out, hissing and foaming. They were choked no longer. A gaping hole was blasted in the wall. A host of dark shapes poured in. Oh, devilry of Saruman, cried Aragorn. They have crept in the culvert again while we talked, and they have lit the fire of Orthanc beneath our feet. Oh, God. Elendil, he shouted, as he leapt down into the breach. Oh, shit, okay. But even as he did so, 100 ladders were raised against the battlements. Over the wall and under the wall, the last assault came sweeping like a dark wave upon a hill of sand. The defence was swept away. Some of the riders were driven back, further and further into the deep, falling and fighting as they gave way, step by step, towards the caves. Others cut their way back towards the citadel. A broad stairway climbed from the deep up to the rock and the rear gate of the Hornburg. Near the bottom stood Aragorn. In his hand still Andúril gleamed, and the terror of the sword for a while held back the enemy, as one by one all who could gain the stair passed up towards the gate. Behind on the upper steps knelt Legolas. His bow was bent, but one gleamed arrow was all that he had left, and he peered now out, ready to shoot the first orc that should dare to approach the stair. All who can have now got safe within, Aragorn, he called. Come back! Aragorn turned and sped up the stair, but as he ran he stumbled in his weariness. At once his enemies leapt up. Up came the orcs, yelling, with their long arms stretched out to seize him. The foremost fell to Legolas's last arrow in his throat, but the rest sprang over him. Then a great boulder, cast from the outer wall above, crashed down upon the stair and hurled them back into the deep. Aragorn gained the door, and swiftly it clanged behind him. Things go ill, my friends, he said, wiping the sweat from his brow with his arm. Ill enough, said Legolas, but not yet hopeless while we have you with us. Where is Gimli? I do not know, said Aragorn. I saw him fighting last, on the ground behind the wall. The enemy swept us apart. Oh, alas, that is evil news, said Legolas. He is stout and strong, said Aragorn. Let us hope that he will escape back to the caves. There he would be safe for a while, safer than we. Such a refuge would be to the liking of a dwarf. Well, that must be my hope, said Legolas, but I wish that he had come this way. I desired to tell Master Gimli that my tale is now 39. We're going to assume that that's Legolas trying to be funny, because he's deeply distressed and worried about Gimli than anything else, because I do like them being friends. Well, if he wins back to the caves, he will pass your count again, laughed Aragorn. Never did I see an axe so wielded. Well, I must go and seek some arrows, said Legolas. Would that this night would end, and I could have a better light for shooting. Aragorn now passed into the citadel. There, to his dismay, he learned that Éomer had not reached the Hornburg. Nay, he did not come to the rock, said one of the Westfold men. I last saw him gathering men about him and fighting in the mouth of the deep. Gamling was with him, and the dwarf, but I could not come to them. Aragorn strode on through the inner court, and mounted to a high chamber in the tower. There stood the king, dark against a narrow window, looking out upon the vale. What is the news, Aragorn? He said. The Deeping Wall is taken, lord, and all the defence swept away, but many have escaped thither to the rock. Is Éomer here? No, lord, but many of your men retreated to the deep, and some say that Éomer was among them. In the narrows they may hold back the enemy and come within the caves. What hope they may have, then I do not know. More than we. Good provision, it is said, and the air is wholesome. It's wholesome there because of the outlets through the fissures in the rock far above. None can force an entrance against determined men. They may hold out long. But the orcs have brought a devilry of Orthanc, said Aragorn. They have blasting fire, and with it they took the wall. If they cannot come in the caves, they may seal up those that are inside. But now we must turn all our thought to our own defence. I fret in this prison, said Theoden. If I could have set a spear in rest, riding before my men upon the field, maybe I could have felt again the joy of battle, and so ended. But I serve little purpose here. Here at least you are guarded in the strongest fastest of the mark, said Aragorn. More hope we have to defend you in the Hornburg than in Edoras, or even at Dunharrow in the mountains. It is said that the Hornburg has never fallen to assault, said Theoden. But now my heart is doubtful. The world changes, and all that once was strong now proves unsure. How shall any tower withstand such numbers and such reckless hate? Had I known that the strength of Isengard was grown so great, maybe I should not have rashly have ridden. Maybe I should not so rashly have ridden forth to meet it. For all the arts of Gandalf, his counsel seems now not so good as it did under the morning sun. Do not judge the counsel of Gandalf until all is over, Lord, said Aragorn. The end will not be long, said the king, but I will not end here, taken like an old badger in a trap. Snowmane and Hasufel and the horses of my guard are in the inner court. When dawn comes, I will bid men sound Helm's horn, and I will ride forth. Will you ride with me then, son of Arathorn? Maybe we shall cleave a road, or make such an end as will be worth of a song, if any be left to sing of us hereafter. I will ride with you, said Aragorn. Taking his leave, he returned to the walls and passed round all their circuit, enheartening the men and lending aid wherever the assault was hot. Legolas went with him. Blasts of fire leapt up from below, shaking the stones. Grappling hooks were hurled, and ladders raised. Again and again the orcs gained the summit of the outer wall, and again the defenders cast them down. Little Hedgehog says, No, judge Gandalf as much as possible, yes. We're all ready to judge Gandalf. Damn it, the video passed too quickly to the end of the battle. But yes, this is interesting, because it's almost as though the spell that Gandalf put on him is wearing off. Like, he's still, I mean, again, I don't think it's a spell, but certainly Gandalf is persuasive. But his persuasiveness is flagging now when he's not here. Which makes sense. But like Theoden really is interesting. But he wasn't saying. I don't know. He's not quite saying that he's not talking about everything that has happened up until now. Like, he's not talking about anything else. He's talking about this battle and how much he fucking wants to die. It's all he can talk about at this point. Dessa says, comparing orcs to rats. Oh, okay. I just completely missed that bit. Or forgot it. Okay. At last, Aragorn stood above the great gates, heedless of the darts of the enemy. As he looked, you definitely should heed them, though, Aragorn. Like, I know you're going to be king, but you can still be shot. You should heed them. You should definitely heed them. Anyway, as he looked forth, he saw the eastern sky grow pale. Then he raised his empty hand, palm outward, in a token of parley. The orcs yelled and jeered. Come down, they cried. If you wish to speak to us, come down. Bring out your king. We are the fighting Uruk-hai. We will fetch him from his hole if he does not come. Bring out your skulking king. The king says, stays or comes at his own will, said Aragorn. Then what are you doing here? They answered. Why do you look out? Do you wish to see the greatness of our army? We are the fighting Uruk-hai. Yes, we know, honey. Aw. We really have only... Little Hedgehog says, is Gandalf actually any good at it as a wizard? Is he just good at talking and has a pointy hat so people assume he's powerful at wizarding? That is the general assumption I have to. He's just not that good. I mean, who's good at being a wizard in this in Tolkien's world? But
Yeah. They really did the destroyed gate very well. Like, it does look like they just fucking rent this gate completely off its hinges. It's very good. Ah! Thorin's Online does such a good job. Anyway. I do like the way the Uruk-hai are constantly reminding people that they are the fighting Uruk-hai. Listen! We're the fighting Uruk-hai! Yes, we know! We know! We know this! You aren't new! You wish to see the greatness of our army? We are the fighting Uruk-hai!
I look out to see the dawn, said Aragorn.
What of the dawn? They jeered. We are the Uruk-hai! Yes, we know, honey. We do not stop the fight for night or day, for fair weather or for storm. We come to kill, by sun or moon. What of the dawn?
None knows what a new day may. None knows what the new day shall bring him, said Aragorn. Get you gone ere it turn to your evil.
Get down, or we will shoot you from the wall, they cried. This is no parley. You have nothing to say.
I still have this to say, answered Aragorn. No enemy has yet taken the Hornburg. Depart, or not one of you will be spared. Not one will be left alive to take back tidings to the north. You do not know your peril. So great a power and royalty was revealed in Aragorn, oh God, again, as he stood there alone above the ruined gates, before the host of his enemies, that many of the wild men paused, and looked back over their shoulders to the valley, and some looked up doubtful at the sky. But the orcs laughed with loud voices, and a hail of darts and arrows whistled over the wall as Aragorn leapt down.
What? Aragorn's got to stop leaping down from this wall! Wait. Again, you... This is quite funny, because in the film he's always leaping all over the place, and you're always like, Aragorn, surely no, not the film. Not the film. No film. That's not... he would have broken a leg or something. No, this isn't right. This would never happen. But no, in the books, Aragorn just fucking leaps from walls all the fucking time. All the bloody time. He just leaps from a wall all the Being a Dunedain means your legs are fucking made of steel or something. Ugh. There was a so as Aragorn and a hail of darts and arrows whistled over the wall as Aragorn leapt down. There was a roar and a blast of fire. The archway of the gate above which he had stood a moment before crumbled and crashed in smoke and dust. The barricade was scattered, as if by a thunderbolt. Aragorn ran to the king's tower. But even as the gate fell and the orcs about it yelled, preparing a charge, a murmur arose behind them like a wind in the distance, and it grew to a clamour of many voices, crying strange news in the dawn. The orcs upon the rock, hearing the rumour of dismay, wavered and looked back, and then, sudden and terrible, from the tower above, the sound of the great horn of Helm rang out. All that heard that sound trembled. Many of the orcs cast themselves on their faces and covered their ears with their claws. Oh, orcs have claws, okay. Back from the deep the echoes came, blast upon blast, as if on every cliff and hill a mighty herald stood. But on the walls men looked up, listening with wonder, for the echoes did not die. Ever the horn blasts wound on among the hills. Nearer now, and louder they answered one to another, blowing fierce and free. Helm! Helm! The riders shouted. Helm has arisen and comes back to war! Helm for Theoden King! And with that shout the king came. His horse was white as snow, golden was his shield, and his spear was long. At his right hand was Aragorn, Elendil's heir. Behind him rode the lords of the house of Eorl the Young. Light sprang in the sky, and night departed. Forth, Eolingas! With a cry and a great noise they charged. Down the gates they roared, over the causeway they swept, and they drove through the hosts of Isengard as a wind among grass. Behind them from the deep came the stern cries of men issuing from the caves, driving forth the enemy. Out poured all the men that were left upon the rock, and ever the sound of blowing horns echoed in the hills. On they rode, the king and his companions. Captains and companions fell or fled before them. Neither orc nor man withstood them. Their backs were to the swords and spears of the riders, and their faces to the valley. They cried and wailed, for fear and great wonder had come upon them with the rising of the day. So King Theoden rode from Helm's Gate, and clove his path to the great dyke.
There the company halted. Light grew bright about them. Shafts of the sun flared above the eastern hills and glimmered upon their shields, upon their spears. But they sat silent on their horses, and they gazed down upon the deep Coombe. The land had changed. Here we go. We got there at the right time, because the land has changed. Where before the green dale had lain, its grassy slopes lapping the ever-mounting hills, there now a forest loomed. Great trees, bare and silent, stood rank on rank, with tangled bough and hoary head. Their twisted roots were buried in the long green grass. Darkness was under them. Between the dyke and the eaves of that nameless wood, only 2 open furlongs lay. There now covered the proud hosts of Saruman. In terror of the king, and in terror of the trees, they streamed down from the Helm's Gate, until all above the dyke was empty of them. But below it they were packed like swarming flies. Vainly they crawled and clambered about the walls of the Coombe, seeking to escape. Upon the east, too sheer and stony was the valley's side. Upon the left, to their west, from the west, their final doom approached.
What was that from? No idea. Never mind. What time is it? Oh. Yeah,
Their final doom approached. There, suddenly, upon a ridge appeared a rider, clad in white, shining in the rising sun. Over the low hills the horns were sounding. Behind him, hastening down the long slopes, were 1,000 men on foot. Their swords were in their hands. Amid them strode a man tall and strong. His shield was red. As he came to the valley's brink, he set his lips to a great black horn and blew a ringing blast. "Erkenbrand!" the rider shouted. "Erkenbrand!" "Behold the white rider!" cried Aragorn. "Gandalf is come again!"
Mithrandir, Mithrandir, said Legolas. "Oh, this is wizardry indeed! Come, I would look on this forest ere the spell changes." The hosts of Isengard roared, swaying this way and that, turning from fear to fear. Again the horn sounded from the tower. Down through the breach of the dyke charged the king's company. Down from the hills leapt Erkenbrand, lord of Westfold. Down leapt Shadowfax, like a deer that runs sure-footed in the mountains. The White Rider was upon them, and the terror of his coming filled the enemy with madness. The wild men fell on their faces before him. The orcs reeled and screamed, and cast aside both sword and spear. Like a black smoke driven by a mounting wind they fled. Wailing, they passed under the waiting shadow of the trees, and from that shadow none ever came again. Woo! We've done it! That is... Helm's Deep. That was exactly the length I expected it to be. I expected it to be that exact length and no more. So excellent. That worked out real well. Yes, Raklos says, I love how the orcs recognize that it's a parley. Yes, again, orcs are way more reasonable than they're ever given much credit for. They're very reasonable. There was the interesting thing that I found was that they were set apart from the wild men, who the wild men looked at Aragorn and said, "Nah, he's probably got a good idea up his sleeve. This seems like a bad idea." But the orcs were completely, they were like, "Nope," which I think more than like, it's not that the wild men are more clever. I think it's just more that the wild men are more, well, I think the wild men are more clever, to be fair, but I also think that the wild men are more conscious of human mannerisms, I suppose, whereas the orcs are just focused and single-minded. Yeah. Okay, we'll pause. We'll have a break. We'll have a brief break. Bio break and stuff for about 5 minutes or so. What is the... Oh yes, we have to... Oh yes, of course. We have to do all of this. All of this. There's a lot of milling about. The milling about and figuring out stuff is far longer than the actual battle. God, when are we? Oh yes, of course we have to. We have to get our boys. Oh, we've got some good stuff to come. Yes, Ragnar is right. Ragnar says Saruman's orcs have a strong sense of identity. They do. They definitely have. Like it's interesting in terms of just the orcs. The orcs are very much not a monoculture. They're very diverse in their cultures and tribes and clans and things like they're very, which I love. But again, consistently reminds you that these are all thinking beings. Like they're thinking, feeling beings, and they have culture and language, which means that they developed it on their own. Makes it tough. Makes it a little weird. Anyway, back in a tick. I would say that is exactly how long I want any battle in any book to go on for, in terms of pages it takes up. I don't want anything else. I want most of the battle to be they fought a lot. Like they were doing a lot of fighting in this bit, and maybe they went here and they went there, but then tell me the most important parts, and then end kind of dramatically. Oh no, Danny, I'm so sorry. Oh, Danny, when did your internet cut out? Sorry, Danny says, oh, the internet's finally back. I swear the internet at work only cuts out when I'm trying to listen to streams. I'm so sorry, Danny. When did it cut out? I'm afraid we finished Helm's Deep already. Yeah, I like that length of a battle. Really shouldn't be any longer. If your battle goes on longer, then either there has to be something very characterful in it, there should be a characterful scene, or it's bad, or it's bad, or I guess some really important. Honeybee says, the boss makes $1, I make a dime. That's why I watch Aaron's streams on company time. Excellent. I mean, yes. Seize the means of production. Danny says it was a while. I think it was right when they just arrived. right after we looked at the map. Oh, I'm so sorry, Danny. Oh, that's terrible. You missed the whole battle. The whole battle. I'm so sorry. That's a real big shame. Mainly because Legolas and Gimli are just so cute in it. I do like it's a very good, very well written battle because you have the characters who you are introduced to, who you know the best, and they're the ones who get all the character stuff. But the other characters do come in and out every now and then. I did forget that Gimli saved Éomer's life, which was really sweet, and I totally forgot. And I'm really happy. I'm very number one, real sad that we don't get that. They should have replaced that with Gimli saving somebody else's life, like I don't know, Gamling or Legolas maybe, or somebody, because that's a real shame. I guess they just replaced it with the don't toss a dwarf thing, which really got tired very quickly. But yes, Legolas and Gimli in their fun times were good. And I like the image. Like the images are cool. Like the image of Aragorn. What's the word? What's the word? Aragorn and Éomer leaning on their swords is quite a nice image. I like it when Aragorn's tired. I guess I just like it when Aragorn's having a bad time. I can like him better when he's having a bad time. I like the bit where Aragorn. Again, also very good part of the books. The only bits of the battle that Tolkien describes to us are the characterful moments, the most important tide turnings of the battle, and the times when our heroes fall down and nearly die. That's the only things I want. Oh, Cal is here. Cal says, "Late is the hour, but I have chosen to appear," is what he says. But you're welcome and beloved whenever you turn up, Cal. We're always happy to have you. I'm so sorry, Cal, but we have just finished the battle for Helm's Deep. I'm afraid you missed the battle for Helm's Deep, and we're just about to go into. We'll do a bit more, and we'll get into the Isengard stuff. But I'm afraid we just missed the battle, and I was just thinking about it. I do like Aragorn tripping. I do like Aragorn tripping up the stairs and having to be saved. I like Aragorn tripping up the stairs and having to be saved by a big rock being thrown at him. It really is very funny. It's actually very funny because they didn't know they weren't gonna hit Aragorn as well. That was really a ditch attempt, wasn't it? There were a bunch of dudes on the wall. We don't hear about these guys on the wall who saved Aragorn's life, but there were like 2 or 3 Rohirrim on the wall who were like, he's probably gonna die if we don't do something, so I guess we should risk crossing Aragorn with this big rock we have. And then they did it, and it worked out fine. But it's still very funny to me. Very funny. It's like it's a very dynamic image. Like Aragorn scrambles and then he falls, and then he's like trying to scramble up the steps, and then Legolas shoots the one arrow that he has into the first orc that tries to grab him, but then that orc just falls, and then like 3 more take his place, and they're all reaching for Aragorn. They're trying to drag him back. They can just shank him at any time, and Aragorn's like scrambling to try and like pull himself up the steps, and then a big fucking rock just topples over from the wall and just crushes all of the orcs behind him, barely missing Aragorn by like an inch. It's very good. Honeybee asks, who threw the rock? Is that ever explained? No, it must have literally just been a few random Rohirrim. We never even get... Like, Aragorn doesn't fucking go to, like... Again, once more. Éomer is like, oh, thank you, Gimli. It's so kind of you. Thank you so much for saving my life. And then Aragorn, who gets saved by, like, from, like, 3 doesn't go and find these random Rohirrim who definitely deserve his big thanks for saving his whole ass life. Like Aragorn, the line of Isildur would have ended right there without 3 unnamed Rohirrim up on top of the wall. My MVPs, the MVPs of the whole battle, except not, because if he had died, nothing else would have changed, I guess, except the ghosts. I suppose the ghosts were important. I suppose I will admit that Aragorn is somewhat important. So we shall hold these 3 Rohirrim in good stead. We like these boys. Who never get mentioned. I'm going to make OCs out of all of them, and I shall be very, very stringent about how good they are. Then he says 0 out of 10 Legolas doesn't skateboard. Yeah. 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 I like Legolas and his knife work, and Aragorn. Cause it's true. Cause Legolas had 20 when he was doing the firing, and then he got 4 more. He killed 4 more on the wall with Aragorn. So definitely his knife work is not as good in any way. Raklos says Arwen would be sad. And then somebody else, Danny says, do we care about Arwen here? It's hard to tell sometimes. Anyone's allowed to care about Arwen, of course. I do not. Mainly because there's no attachment, that's not true. I care about Arwen the moment she is, she has a personality and wants, which is when Aragorn dies. So that's the only time I care about Arwen. So I suppose that does mean that I would care about her earlier if Aragorn died here. But it's the only time where she shows like an actual personality and wants and feelings and stuff. So then I care about Arwen, and not before. Prince of Caldor says, terrible JoJo reference, but the 3 Rohirrim are clearly the Stone Men. I'm afraid I don't watch JoJo and I do not get that reference. I'm so sorry. Or he says Pillarmen, not Stone Men. Yes, still I do not, I'm afraid, partake of JoJo. Honeybee says, I can see myself becoming far too attached to these 3 nameless boys in the future. Oh no, I'll project onto them. I already have one name. They're called Marfred. And he's they're cross-dressing, non-binary fellow who has a verbal defect, which means that sometimes he can't speak, so he uses sign language a lot, and he is a scout for Theodred, and a good friend of Theodred, because he has to be, and he has like red hair rather than blonde, because at least one person has to not have blonde hair in Rohan. And he's like 5'6", and I'm already attached. And the other one is a real young lad. He's like 19, and he's he actually came from the Eastfold, but he was squired to gambling. Yes, squired to gambling because of his mother, who was gambling's niece. Yes, and he and gambling were very close, and I'm just going off on a rant. Never mind. Anyway. Okay. Let's continue. Let's continue just a little bit longer. Might stop in a bit, but for now we'll continue for a bit. Just because poor Cal just arrived, and poor Danny has been trying to get in for ages. And yes, so we'll at least get some cute Gimli and Legolas action, and also me being angry at Gandalf because he's here. So of course I'm going to be angry at him for something. So Chapter 8, The Road to Isengard. So it was that in the light of a fair morning, King Theoden and Gandalf the White Rider met again upon the green grass beside the deeping stream. There also was Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and Legolas the elf, and Erkenbrand of Westfold, and the lords of the Golden House. About them were gathered the Rohirrim, the riders of the Mark. Wonder overcame their joy in victory, and their eyes were turned towards the wood. Suddenly there was a great shout, and down the dyke came those who had been driven back into the deep. There came Gamling, the old, and Eomer, son of Eobind, and beside him walked Gimli, the dwarf. He had no helm, and about his head was a linen band stained with blood, but his voice was loud and strong. 42, Master Legolas, he cried. Alas, my axe is notched, and the 42nd had an iron collar on his neck. How was it with you? Oh, you have passed my score by 1, answered Legolas, but I do not grudge you the game, so glad am I to see you on your legs.
Welcome, Eomer, sister son, said Theoden. Now that I see you safe, I am glad indeed.
Hail, Lord of the Mark, said Eomer. The dark night has passed, and day has come again, but the day has brought strange tidings.
He turned and gazed in wonder, first at the wood and then at Gandalf.
Once more you come in the hour of need, unlooked for, he said.
Unlooked for? Said Gandalf.
I said I would return and meet you here.
Was that Gandalf's voice?
Unlooked for? Said Gandalf. I said I would return and meet you here. But you did not name the hour, nor foretell the manner of your coming. Strange help you bring. You are mighty in wizardry, Gandalf the Great. Well, that may be, but if so, I have not shown it yet. I have but given good counsel in peril, and made use of the speed of Shadowfax. Your own valour has done more, and the stout legs of the Westfold men marching through the night.
Then they all gazed at Gandalf, with still great wonder. Some glanced darkly at the wood, and passed their hands over their brows, as if they thought their eyes saw otherwise than his. Gandalf laughed long and merrily.
Oh, the trees, he said. Nay, I see the wood as plainly as you do, but that is no deed of mine. It is a thing beyond the counsel of the wise. Better than my design, and better than even my hope, the event has proved.
Then if not yours, whose is this wizardry, said Theoden. Not Saruman's, that is plain. Is there some mightier sage of whom we have yet to learn?
It is not wizardry, but a power far older, said Gandalf. A power that walked the earth ere elf sang or hammer rang. Ere iron was found or tree was hewn, when young was mountain under moon. Ere ring was made or wrought was woe, it walked the forests long ago.
And what may be the answer to your riddle, said Theoden.
If you would learn that, you would come with me to Isengard, answered Gandalf. To Isengard, they cried. Yes, said Gandalf. I shall return to Isengard, and those who will may come with me. There we may see strange things, but there are not men enough in the Mark. Not if they were all gathered together and healed of wounds and weariness to assault the stronghold.
That's not even sorry.
But there are not men enough in the Mark, not even if they were all gathered together and healed of wounds and weariness to assault the stronghold of Saruman, said Theoden.
Nevertheless, to Isengard I go, said Gandalf. I shall not stay there long. My way lies now eastward. Look for me in Edoras ere the waning of the moon.
Nay, said Theoden, in this dark hour before dawn I doubted you, but we will not part now. I will come with you, if that is your counsel.
I wish to speak with Saruman as soon as may be now, said Gandalf, and since he has done you great injury, it would be fitting if you were there. But how soon and how swiftly will we ride?
My men are weary with battle, said the king.
And I am weary also, for I have ridden far and slept little. Alas, my old age is not famed, nor due only to the whisperings of Wormtongue. It is an ill that no leech can wholly cure, not even Gandalf. Then let all who are to ride with me rest now, said Gandalf. We will journey under the shadow of evening. It is as well, for it is my counsel that all our comings and goings should be as secret as may be henceforth. But do not command many men to go with you, Theoden. We go to a parley, not to a fight. The king then chose men that were unhurt and had swift horses, and he sent them forth with tidings of the victory into every vale of the Mark. And they bore his summons also, bidding all men, young and old, to come in haste to Edoras, where there the lord of the Mark would hold an assembly of all that could bear arms, on the second day after the full moon. To ride with him to Isengard, the king chose Éomer and 20 men of his household.
What's going on here? What's going on here? Oh, you needed more about the three. I'll write a post about it. I'll write a post about the 3-row here. Don't you worry. Prince of Caldor says, "Oh, Gimli, my dearest boy, I'm sorry for your acts." Then he says, "Every time he's called the Great, a part of my soul dies." Yes, yes. Prince of Caldor says, "The Pest would be a better title." To Isengard, to Isengard. Denny says, "It's where they're taking the hobbits." Prince of Caldor says, "Sorry, I'm hyper as fuck. They're taking the hobbits to Isengard." Then he says, Theoden, "Oh, thank God, Gandalf's here to make these decisions for me. I know he's real happy about it, huh?" Yes, Honeybee says, "Did he just call Gandalf a leech?" And Ratgloss replies, no, as in a doctor. Yes, leeches is in doctors. Which implies that Rohirrim doctors still use leeches. Which is an interesting fact. Okay. To ride with him to Isengard, the king chose Éomer and 20 men of his household. With Gandalf would go Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli. In spite of his hurt, the dwarf would not stay behind. "Only a feeble blow, and the cat turned it," he said. "It would take more than such an orc scratch to keep me back." "I will tend it while you rest," said Aragorn. No. Damn it! I am fond of Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas being good friends and taking care of each other. Damn it! Damn it. The king now returned to the Hornburg, and slept, such a sleep of quiet as he had not known for many years, and the remainder of his chosen company rested also. But the others, all that were not hurt or wounded, began a great labour, for many had fallen in the battle and lay dead upon the field or in the deep. No orcs remained alive, their bodies were uncounted, but a great many of the hillmen had given themselves up, and they were afraid and cried for mercy. The men of the Mark took their weapons from them and set them to work. Oh god, what's Erkenbrand's voice? I cannot be expected! Cal, why aren't you the one doing this? Why is not Cal the one doing this? The actual good voice actor. It seems a cruel irony that the pittance with terrible accents must be reciting to an actual voice actor. What is Erkenbrand's voice? Fuck. Let's just say, help now to repair the evil. No. Help now to repair the evil in which you have joined, said Erkenbrand. And afterwards you shall take an oath never again to pass the fords of Isen in arms, nor to march with the enemies of men. And then you shall go free back to your own land. You have been deluded by Saruman. Many of you have got death as the reward for your trust of him.
But had you conquered, little better would your wages have been. The men of Dunland were amazed, for Saruman had told them that the men of Rohan were cruel and burned their captives alive. In the midst of the field before the Hornburg 2 mounds were raised, and beneath them were laid all the riders of the Mark who fell in the defence, those of the East Dales upon one side, and those of West upon the other. In a grave alone under the shadow of the Hornburg lay Harmer, captain of the King's Guard. He fell before the gate. I forgot about that.
Oh yes, this is the bit where they just tell you about everyone who died in the battle and you didn't hear about it. I forgot. Is there anyone else who died in the battle who we didn't hear about? There might be one other. I think Gamling. Does Gamling survive? I can't remember. Anyway,
The orcs were piled in great heaps away from the mounds of men, not far from the eaves of the forest, and the people were troubled in their minds, for the heaps of carrion were too great for burial or for burning. They had little wood for firing, and none would have dared to take an axe to the strange trees, even if Gandalf had not warned them to hurt neither bark nor bough at their great peril.
"Let the orcs lie," said Gandalf. "The morning may bring new counsel."
In the afternoon the king's company prepared to depart. The work of burial... Oh god, actually I am sad about Harmer, because Harmer was... Oh no, I am quite sad about it. I am quite sad about it, because it's Harmer, my good boy, who was like, I don't give a fuck that you're a king, Aragorn. Oh no, he really was a good door warden, because he held the gate. He held the gate. Oh, he held the gate. Danny asks, did any elves survive other than Legolas? Which I assume is a joke, because, again, elves would never fucking come and help. Elves would never fucking come and help. Elves would never bloody come and help any men of Rohan, ever. Like, and yes, let's talk about this, actually. You know what? Let's talk about this. The gall to even suggest that any of the elves of Lothlorien would come and help the men of Rohan out of their own good hearts. Like, the fucking gall. The men of Rohan did this all by themselves. Shut the fuck up, Peter Jackson. Shut the fuck up, Peter Jackson. The men of Rohan did it all as ever. The humans, the Etani, figure it out by themselves. The Etani save themselves and everyone else. And the idea that the elves would even lift a finger is it's so galling. It's the most galling concept. Oh, Danny doesn't know this apparently. Okay, so Danny asks, I missed the battle, was that a movie thing only? Oh, okay, seems like a weird thing to add. Okay, so the reason that there are elves in Helm's Deep is because they were going to they were the vessel with which Arwen was going to be there. She was going to be at the battle, which, by the way, would have been the only reason and reasonable excuse I would have accepted for there to be elves at the battle. If they decided to say, actually, Arwen's good and chill, and she came to her grandmother and was like, if you don't fucking help my boyfriend, if you don't fucking send people to save my boyfriend, I'm not gonna speak to you ever again. And Galadriel was like, yeah, alright, I guess that's... And then Arwen, like, took a bunch of... Like, she's like, if... I'm more likely, actually, Arwen was like, if you don't send any... I'm going to go and help my boyfriend. If you don't send anybody with me, I'm going on my own. And I don't care what you say. And I'm just going. And so Galadriel was like, oh, I guess we do need to send people to protect her. So then there are elves there now. That is the only good explanation for why elves would come to the Battle of Helm's Deep. But because they had to delete Arwen, because woman, I guess, they
they had too many shots with elves in them. So now they're just here for no reason. And Aragorn is like deeply excited to see Haldir, who he's met like maybe twice, and it's weird and awkward and makes no sense at all, and I hate it. So there, that's that. Let's go back to being sad about Hammer, because it is really sad. Our captain of the guard did just die, and he's been buried, and it's very sad. Because I do love Hammer a lot. I now miss him quite a lot. He's not going to be here for a while. We do get Elfhelm though, who is a suitable replacement. I desperately want Kaz to arrive. I'm sorry, Cal says, "Careful, we'll summon Kaz from the deeps." Kaz better come in here and try to tell me that Haldir would have come to the rescue of the Rohirrim, that it's a reasonable thing for him to have done. And then he also needs to explain why them not coming is a sign of him still being a good person, which it isn't. Never mind. Jenny says, "Well, that's good to know. I've never actually read it, so I assumed it was in the books too." This is the issue. A lot of the stuff, again, there's a lot of stuff. I keep on reading shit, and I'm like, wait, that wasn't in the book, or that was in the book. Wait, this is a whole thing for me. Because again, I have not read the two. I read the Fellowship of the Ring because my boy, and I read the Return of the King also for my boy. So that's really the Two Towers. And I mean, I guess I control F the Two Towers every now and again. So I barely touch the Two Towers. I really do. I really barely touch the Two Towers. Yeah. So. Yeah. So I'm having a lot of realizations. Yeah. Honeybee says, "I forgot Hammer died, and I am quite emotional about it." Yes, it's sad. It's sad. Radcliffe says Hammer died because he was rude to Aragorn. Quite possible. Fully possible. I would not be surprised. You know what I've just thought? The Battle of the Hound's Deep is over, and we're not even halfway through the book. So the rest of this book is just going to be, yeah, it's just gonna be Sam and Frodo. Yep, Sam and Frodo and Sam. Frodo and Sam. Frodo. Gollum. Frodo. Pippin. There we go. Okay, so we've got. Oh wait. Okay. So yes, we need to get the Palantir, and then that's the end of all that stuff, and then the rest of the book is Frodo, which is I'm quite excited about. I'm quite excited about that. Danny is true. Danny is correct. Hammer got murked by a random warg in the movie. You're right. Why did they do that? Why did they do that? That's terrible. That's terrible. My poor, he deserved so much better. My good boy. Okay. Des says, well, it goes so far with the Sam and Frodo plotline, like way further, right? I don't know. I said that and now I can't remember. No, definitely. Like again, like there's like this book, this bit, which is about like a whole third of this book is just Frodo and Sam. Rakgloss says. Rakgloss first says Saruman, and then says, "You know what I'm excited about." We do, Rakgloss. I know you're excited about Saruman, but You're excited about your boy, and it is just hundreds of pages of your boy here. So we're gonna have a good time. Yeah. Yes. Danny is like, it's so you could meet his son at Helm's Deep and feel sad. And yeah, that is pretty fucking rough. And then Ragnar says his son Haleth. Again, yes, very a wild thing to name him. Like a cool thing to name him because it gives like a whole thing. Like Hammer was like, I'm going to name you Haleth. Did Hammer know about Haleth? Or is this just a random accidental name stuff? Thedrick says, it's because they knew we would like him way more than Aragorn and he had to be punished. And that's true. I do think... Oh, no! Wait! Ah! Fuck! Did I find... Did I lose my page? Where were we? Okay. No, we didn't lose the page. Phew! We're alright. Okay. Let's read a little bit on... Actually, am I going to read a bit on... We'll just read... Actually, we're going to just read to this end bit. We'll just read to this end bit. That makes sense. Ragnar says Haleth, the first age one, was originally supposed to be a male character. That would have been very boring for him. Thank you, Tolkien, for briefly kowtowing to your strange fascination with warrior women, with Amazonian women. Oh dear. Okay. We'll get to the end. So where did we get to? Yes, oh yes, we got there. In a grave alone under the shadow of the Hornburg lay Hammer, captain of the King's Guard. He fell before the gate. The orcs were piled in great heaps, away from the mounds of men, not far from the eaves of the forest, and the people were troubled in their minds, for the heaps of carrion were too great, blah blah blah, anyway.
Let the orcs lie, said Gandalf. The morning may bring new counsel.
In the afternoon the king's company prepared to depart. The work of burial was then but beginning, and Theoden mourned for the loss of Hammer his captain, and cast the first earth upon his grave. Oh. Also interesting, they have the first earth thing. The first earth thing. They cast earth on that's a burial. Oh, well, this is... Well.
Great injury indeed has Saruman done to me and all this land, he said, and I will remember it when we meet.
The sun was already drawing near the hills upon the west of the Coombe, when at last Theoden and Gandalf and their companions rode down from the dike. Behind them were gathered a great host, both of the riders and of the people of Westfold, old and young, women and children, who had come out from the caves. A song of victory they sang with clear voices, and then they fell silent, wondering what would chance, for their eyes were on the trees, and they feared them. The riders came to the wood, and they halted, horse and man. They were unwilling to pass in. The trees were grey and menacing, and a shadow or a mist was about them. The ends of their long sweeping boughs hung down like searching fingers. Their roots stood up from the ground like the limbs of strange monsters, and dark caverns opened beneath them. But Gandalf went forward, leading the company, and where the road from the Hornburg met the trees, they saw now an opening like an arched gate under the mighty boughs, and through it Gandalf passed, and they followed him. Then to their amazement they found that the road ran on, and the deeping stream beside it, and the sky was open above and full of golden light. But on either side the great aisles of the wood were already wrapped in dusk, stretching away into impenetrable dark shadows, and there they heard the creaking and groaning of boughs and far cries, and a rumour of wordless voices murmuring angrily. No orc or other living creature could be seen. Legolas and Gimli were now riding together upon one horse, and they kept close beside Gandalf, for Gimli was afraid of the wood.
"It is hot in here," said Legolas to Gandalf. "I feel a great wrath about me. Do you not feel the air throb in your ears?"
"Yes," said Gandalf.
"What has become of the miserable orcs?" said Legolas.
"That, I think, no one will ever know," said Gandalf.
They rode in silence for a while, but Legolas was ever glancing from side to side, and would often have halted to listen to the sounds of the wood, if Gimli had allowed it. I do like this actually. This is quite cute. This is quite cute because Gimli, Legolas is just like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is cool. Do you notice all these things? It's cool. Then he asks, are Merry and Pippin still just smoking weed at Orthanc, or is that another movie only thing? I am not sure. I can't remember. That I'm not sure about. I have a feeling they are. They have to, yes. I mean, yes, they definitely did some smoking, because they find some longbottom leaf amongst, anyway, we'll get there.
These are the strangest trees that I ever saw, he said, and I have seen many an oak grow from acorn. Oh, wait.
Sorry, this is Legolas. These are the strangest trees that I ever saw, he said, and I have seen many oak grow from acorn to ruinous age. I wish there were leisure now to walk among them. They have voices, and in time I might come to understand their thought.
No, no, said Gimli. Let us leave them. I guess their thought already. Hatred of all that go on two legs, and their speeches of crushing and tangling.
Not of all that go on two legs, said Legolas. There I think you are wrong. It is orcs they hate, for they do not belong here, and know little of elves and men. Far away are the valleys where they sprang, from deep dales of Fangorn, Gimli. That is whence they come, I guess.
Then that is the most perilous wood in Middle-earth, said Gimli. I should be grateful for the part they have played, but I do not love them. You may think them beautiful, but I have seen a greater wonder in this land, more beautiful than any grove or glade that ever grew. My heart is still full of it. Strange are the ways of men, Legolas. Here they have one of the marvels of the northern world, and what do they say of it? Caves, they say, caves! Holes to fly to in time of war, to store fodder in. My good Legolas, do you know that the caverns of Helm's Deep are vast and beautiful? There would be an endless pilgrimage of dwarves, merely to gaze at them if such a thing were known to be. Aye, indeed, they would pay pure gold for the brief glance.
And I would give gold to be excused, said Legolas, and double to be let out if I strayed in.
You have not seen, so I forgive your jest, said Gimli, but you speak like a fool. Do you think those halls are fair, where your king dwells under the hill in Mirkwood, and dwarves helped in their making long ago? They are but hovels compared with the caverns I have seen there, immeasurable halls, filled with an everlasting music of water that tinkles into pools as fair as Kelidzarum in the starlight. And Legolas, when the torches are kindled, and men walk on the sandy floors under the echoing domes, then, Legolas, gems and crystals and veins of precious ore glint in the polished halls, and the light glows through folded marbles, shell-like, translucent as the living hands of Queen Galadriel. There are columns of white and saffron and dawn rose, Legolas, fluted and twisted into dreamlike forms. They spring from many coloured floors to meet the glistening pendants of the roof, wings, ropes, curtains fine as frozen clouds, spears, banners, pinnacles of suspended palaces. Still lakes mirror them. A glimmering world looks up from the dark pools covered with clear glass. Cities such as the mind of Durin could scarce have imagined in his sleep, stretched through the avenues and pillared courts, on into the dark recesses where no light can come. And plink! A silver drop falls, and the round wrinkles in the glass make all the towers bend and waver like weeds and corals in a grotto of the sea. And evening comes, they fade and twinkle out, the torches pass on to another chamber and another dream. There is chamber after chamber, Legolas, hall opening out of hall, dome after dome, stair beyond stair, and still the winding paths lead on into the mountains and heart. Caves! The caverns of Helm's Deep! Happy was the chance that drove me in there. It makes me weep to leave them. Oh my god! Oh my god! My boy! I love him so much! I love him so much! Oh, my boy. Danny asked, did Gimli call Erin Lasgalen a hovel? Yes, he did, but he meant it in the like, he knows Erin Lasgalen is beautiful.
but in comparison to the glittering caves, it is a hovel. We helped build it, but it's a hovel. I don't give a shit. It's barely worth living in comparison to the glittering caves. Just listen to him go. I know. I can't believe I managed to maintain that all the way through, but I did because of the passion in it, the fucking love that Gimli has, the poeticness in his heart. Dreadful of the character assassination that he suffered. You can just imagine, like, they're riding along with this huge, like, lot of Rohirrim, and Theoden's at the front and Gandalf is up there and Aragorn's around, and then you've got Legolas and Gimli in the middle, and Gimli is just going off, like, they're so like, Legolas, I need you to understand, this is the most fucking beautiful thing I've ever seen in my, you don't understand, no, listen, you don't understand, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever looked at in my whole life. And Legolas is just, like, smiling fondly at him, and, like, all of the Rohirrim around them are kind of, like, bemused but really fond as well, because Gimli's appreciating something of theirs, essentially, and it's just so nice. It's just so nice. Because they It's about the love. It's about the love. Anyway. Oh my god, we've got more to do. We've got more to get though. Then I will wish you this fortune for your comfort, Gimli, said the elf, that you may come safe from war and return to see them again. But do not tell all your kindred. There seems little left for them to do, from your account. Maybe the men of this land are wise to say little. One family of busy dwarfs with a hammer and chisel might mar more than they have made.
No, you do not understand, said Gimli. No dwarf could be unmoved by such loveliness. None of Durin's race would mine those caves for stones or ore, not if diamonds and gold could be got there. Do you cut down groves of blossoming trees in the springtime for firewood? We would tend those glades of flowering stone, not quarry them. With cautious skill, tap by tap, a small chip of rock and no more, perhaps, in the whole anxious day, so we could work, and as the years went by we should open up new ways, and display far chambers that are still dark, glimpsed only as a void beyond fissures in the rock. Ah, lights, Legolas! We should make lights, such lamps as once shone in Khazad-dûm, and when we wished, we would drive away the night that has lain there since the hills were made, and when we desired rest, we would let the night return.
You move me, Gimli, said Legolas. I have never heard you speak like this before. Almost you make me regret that I have not seen these caves. Come, let us make this bargain. If we both return safe out of the perils that await us, we will journey for a while together. You shall visit Fangorn with me, and I will come with you to see Helm's Deep.
That would not be the way of return that I should choose, said Gimli. But I will endure Fangorn if I have your promise to come back to the caves and share their wonder with me.
You have my promise, said Legolas. But alas, now we must leave both cave and wood for a while. See, we are coming to the end of the trees. How far is it to Isengard, Gandalf? Dessa makes a great point. Legolas proving how little elves actually understand the depths of dwarves' understanding of the earth. Yes! I know, the idea that Legolas is like, well, you know, you're dwarves, you just mine everything, right? And Gimli's like, no! Shut up! You don't understand. Oh, perfect timing. We actually come to the Glittering Caves. I have to say, now that I've listened to Gimli talk about them again, they're kind of underwhelming in the game, but I still love them. I still love the way they are in the game anyway. Mainly because of the glittering pools and the light and stuff. They definitely get the light right. I'm very hyper about this now. I'm just full of love for caves. I'm full of love for caves. Gimli has filled me full of love for caves. Yes. Danny says, are we there? Oh, yes. Yes. Legolas is like, are we there yet? Yes. He's very like him. Ugh. Ugh. Rackloth says, and I'm sorry I'm reading this out, but it does have to be said. Rackloth says, cave and wood. Where are the Freudian think pieces when we need them? And Danny expresses my feelings on that subject correctly. No. 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 Oh, then Nessa comes in and tells us that there is a whole section of an article, don't worry. Oh, I was worrying. Yes, I was worrying, and now I am experiencing a different emotion. Talking scholars love to go there, yes. I'm sure they do. It's very helpful to have a Tolkien scholar among us to tell us the terrible crimes that Tolkien scholars continue to commit. Yes. But look at this. It's pretty. It glitters and twinkles. Like it does twinkle, and it's like an echoing cavern. Like, I get it. They do quite a good job. It's not colourful enough. The glittering caves in Lord of the Rings Online, not colourful enough. However, still very pretty. Danny says Tolkien scholars tend to have the worst takes I've found. Yes, they do. Except for Dessa, who has only the best takes. Ragloss says Dessa says, I need to be in a cave. I know, I also need to be in a cave. I need to be in a cave. I feel like I'm disappointing Gimli by not being in a cave right now. Okay, Legolas says, how far is it to Isengard, Gandalf?
About 15 leagues, as the crows of Saruman make it, said Gandalf. 5 from the mouth of the Deeping Combe to the fords, and 10 more from there to the gates of Isengard. But we shall not ride all the way this night. And when we get there, what shall we see? Asked Gimli. You may know, but I cannot guess. Well, I do not know myself for certain, answered the wizard. I was there at nightfall yesterday, but much may have happened since. Yet I think that you will not say that the journey was in vain, not though the glittering caves of Aglarond are left behind.
Let's end on that high. Let's end on that high. Because we, as much as I would like to get to our good boys, it's probably clever of me to stop there. The glittering caves also is very good because they get the sense of there just being like a lot of people in these caves, and they're all very sad. Like, look at all of these women and people who are just so sad because all their husbands and sons and brothers are dying out there, and they're all like, I wish you'd chosen me to go rather than my 12-year-old son, but okay. There are like a few like 6-year-old boys in here somewhere, and yeah. The glittering there's a different instance, like a story instance for the glittering caves where you go with Gimli and you see where he gets his head knocked off. Well, not knocked off, but you know, you see where he gets his head knocked. And it's very funny. Gimli's very funny in that. There's like a child that you find, which is also very sweet, and she comes with you. The whole thing is very good. The whole thing at Helm's Deep was very well done. I was very attached. But yes, so okay, so we're stopping there. We're stopping there with our beloved boy. I'm full of love for my boy. I'm very full of love for Gimli. And I'm just empowered by it. He just loves these crystals so much. He's such a good boy. And Legolas is understanding him better. Also very tender. Legolas is understanding him well. Like Legolas is listening to him and hearing him be so passionate and thinking, oh, orcs are okay. Sorry, dwarves are good then. Dwarves are all right. dwarves do, because so first he needed to know that Gimli could appreciate elves, which is why him appreciating Galadriel was like Legolas, like, oh right, you can like elves, okay, I guess you're worth my time. And now he's been like, oh wait, you have depths of love in you, and maybe I'm getting more attached. And maybe I'm getting more attached. Danny, be nice to me. I'm sleepy. I'm sleepy. Danny caught me saying orcs instead of dwarves. And now I'm being roasted in my own stream chat. Yeah. Just the the meaning behind Legolas's essential realization that dwarves have souls is basically what Legolas is realizing. Dwarves have impassioned, delightful, tender, warm souls, and he loves them. he loves him now. He's in love with him now. It's very sweet. Then he says, "What are you, movie Legolas? Shut up! Shut up! No!" There is a mutiny. There's a mutiny going on in my stream chat. Dare to call me movie Legolas. Ugh. Shame. The shame of it. I guess movie Legolas is a bit better because he doesn't like movie Legolas doesn't lie. Movie Legolas doesn't. Prince of Caledor has joined in the rebellion. I knew he would. I knew it. I knew he would. Could make a Scots joke there, but I won't because my grandmother would be angry at me. My grandmother would not be pleased with me. Oh dear. Sorry, Cal is not taking well to even the hint, suggestion of my terrible what would it be called? Scott bashing, I guess. But I would never. I'm sorry. I would never. It just passed through my head as something I could say, but I didn't because, again, the British are bust. Prince of Caledor says there will be issues. Yes. Alright, okay. I think that must be it. Thank you all very much for coming again. And it was a good old time. I really do like the Battle of Fantasy. It's a good one. And the next one will probably be probably like this Thursday. We'll try for Monday, but it will probably be something more like Tuesday. But yeah, night everybody. And Dessa says good night to everyone, but Gimli especially. Yes. Right, night everybody.